Right, welcome to Speaker Sport Now with Danny and Matt. Today we're going to be talking about Leicester City and their run for the Premier League title. And to help us with that is Leicester City fan Lewis.
Hello, you alright? Thanks for having us on the show.
Oh, no. No problem. It's a big deal, right?
Yeah, well, it could be.
Yeah. Right, so anyway, we'll just start off asking a few questions. For us as a neutral, watching Leicester City, a lot of people still think, when's the bubble going to burst and when they're going to sort of drop off. What's it like being a Leicester City fan? What's the feeling going into like every week and every game? How confident are you with the team now?
Well, if we go back to from March, really, when we went on that run towards the back end of the season, we were destined to go down to the Championship. Everyone had the same opinion to go on that remarkable run towards the end of the season. And people thought with what happened with Nigel Pearson going and getting Ranieri, and it might have not been as successful, but obviously there's still a togetherness there that was created at the back end of the season. It's just Claudio's come in and he's carried it on, and they're willing to prove people wrong through all the critics saying Leicester are relegated, all done and dusted. It shows you how good of a tight knit group we've got, and it's transitioning into the crowds. I mean, to be selling out week in week out, you've got a massive atmosphere that's at the ground now. If you ever get the chance to go to the King Power Stadium in the next few years, you want to go because it is one of the loudest stadiums you can get to at the minute.
And how confident are you, or where do you think Leicester will finish the season now? Do you really think that we could become Premier League champions, or is it just we've got that fourth place, or it's looking more or less likely we've got the fourth place and we'll take that? That's our season.
Yeah, it sounds crazy even thinking from what happened last season to think that we'd be in the position where we are. I mean, the result on Saturday says it all. 3-1 against Manchester City at their stomping ground. You can't write that kind of stuff. As far as the title go, I'd say we've got a massive game coming up on Sunday against Arsenal, a massive 6-pointer. If we win that, I'd say that we've got a better chance of doing it and probably winning the title. For me, I'd say realistically, third, fourth, no matter where we finish this year, it's going to be an amazing season for us.
Absolutely.
I would say the guaranteed fourth, definitely. Just looking at the table, like fifth place Man United are 12 points off. I can't see Leicester losing 4 games of the last 13 left, and I can't see Man United or West Ham or Southampton winning that many games. So I think top 4, I think they've got that. And I think
Leicester losing that many games as well.
Yeah, like Lewis said, even if they finish 4th from the position they are now, that's a great season for him.
Phenomenal season.
If you finish 4th, how do you think the club would handle next season in the Champions League or even Europa League, which would sort of be looking at now a worst case scenario, which is a bit funny thinking about it, But but how do you think the club would do in the Champions League?
See, for me, this is where Leicester City can get lost in the media by their perception. I mean, a lot of people said that this year, because of the struggles that they had staying up last season, they'll be destined to go down. People are saying, would the Champions League be too much on their plate to handle maintaining a good stance in the Premiership? For me, with the atmosphere and the group of players that we've got, I mean, you've had Vardy that's come through from non-league up to the Premier League.
Yeah.
He's hungry to do stuff. N'Golo Kante a few years ago, he was in the 8th tier of French football. He's got stuff to prove. Riyad Mahrez.
Do you think you can keep hold of those players even with Champions League football?
Vardy's just signed a new deal, so I'm hoping that's a positive thing. And I've had discussions with people in the past, like if you're one of those Leicester players, why would you not carry on at Leicester City with guaranteed Champions League football? You've got a guaranteed starting place. You're going to make history being the first Leicester City team in the Champions League. I think with the nucleus of the squad they've got, it wouldn't surprise me if they carried on the same mentality into the Champions League and think we're going to sustain in the Premier League because we want to prove it's not a one-hit wonder. and we're going to make it go to the Champions League because we don't know whether that'll be a last time.
Yeah.
I think they'll give teams a better run than a lot of people are thinking in the Champions League. Obviously, maybe, if they get Barcelona then. But, your average team, like your Wolfsburg, and I think they'll give them a good game. Like, I think all Premier League sides do. They give a good game. All right, they've not been doing very well recently, but they give a good game. And I think Leicester will stand by that. And with a few more signings to bolster the squad, I couldn't see why they won't be competitive in the Champions League. We're not going to say they're going to win it. That would be like
that would be dreamland.
Yeah,
and there have been teams in the past that have had a good run. You look at Ghent this season.
Applewell was it?
Applewell, Nicosia as well. Yeah. There's been a few more. You mentioned the squad about how good the team spirit is and all. And the January transfer window's just passed. You've made a couple of signings. You brought in Gray and who else was it?
Daniel Amati.
Yeah, that's the one. But you also missed out on a couple of signings. You were trying to sign Ahmed Musa, was it, from CSKA Moscow, and like Remy. Going down two roads, how important do you think these new signings will be to the club? How do you think they're going to react to the situation Leicester are in? And another question, how vital is it, or how vital could it be that they missed out on those signings, like Remy?
Well, firstly, with the signings that they made, you can, straight from the get go with Damari Gray, you've heard for the past couple of seasons since he burst on the scene, he's got massive potential, and to get a player for such a cheap price, I mean, Bournemouth at the start of the season were £8 million rejected, and we've managed to get him for half that price. Very young, promising midfielder. England, destined to be an England international if he keeps his head. And Daniel Amati from Copenhagen, the same again. Young, 20 years old, got great athlete prowess about him. I think more of January was to do with keeping the squad that we had and then just building for the future. You look at all these top European teams, they're not buying. They met the odd big worldwide signing, but you think of a lot of the signings that they make, it's all young, hungry players to then mould into their philosophy, don't they? And I think that's the right way in going forward, because these players are young, they're wanting to prove that they're the best players in the world.
Of course, yeah.
So by doing that and getting them all together into that squad, that's only going to transition.
And going on, like you said, he's probably deliberately not gone and tried to bring too many players in because he doesn't want to disrupt the team. And you could look at it and say maybe he could have brought on, say, like a midfielder to replace. You got Drinkwater and Kante in there. You could probably have brought in another midfielder who's quality-wise is probably a better player, but would he do as good a job as Kante? Yeah, exactly.
I think
this probably wouldn't.
Yeah, this was the. I think this was the issue with the strikers. I mean, a lot of people are saying, they missed out on a striker. They probably should have got a striker, which I can understand. They let Kramaric go. If an injury happens to Vardy, God forbid, touch wood, that don't happen. They could be in real trouble. But at the same time, you could argue that had they brought someone like a Loic Remy in, would he be for the team or would he be for himself? And that's the kind of way you need to look at it, because if, say, you bring a striker in for the sake of it, and we've had history of doing that with Jermaine Beckford and players like that in the past. We just signed them because we needed the striker. They've not given it their all, and it just turns out to be a waste of money. So,
yeah, like with Remy, you'd be thinking with the season Vardy's having, he'll replace Okazaki if he would have come in. Yeah. And although Okazaki, I think he's got a few goals this season, not a bad return, but he does work incredibly hard. And like Lewis was saying, it's all about the team. They've got a good understanding between them, like Vardy and Okazaki, and the whole team. That's the understanding. And to bring a player in mid-season, alright, it might have bolstered the squad quality-wise, but it could have messed with the chemistry of the whole team.
What's the depth in the squad like? Because I would have looked at it and thought maybe striker's a position where you've got your best players and you're attacking players like Mahrez and Vardy. Okazaki is a good player. And I would have looked at it and thought, if anything, the strikers would have been all right. You could have skipped that and maybe looked to bolster up defence or something. I don't know.
Especially with him being out of competition. Well, only the Premier League.
What happens, like you say, God forbid Vardy gets injured. What happens if Hoof gets injured or Christian Fuchs gets injured?
Well, with
because you've also let a few players go out on loan. You mentioned Kramaric and Delat's gone out on loan to Borough.
Yeah, I think Benalouan's gone out as well. I think with what Ranieri's tried to do, he's tried to ensure that he's got at least one, if not two, players as a backup. I mean, you say if Robert Huth gets injured, despite us letting Benalouan go out on loan, we've still got Marcin Vasilevsky, who's, he's getting on a bit. He's 36, but is
he that old?
Yeah, he's that old. But the times he stepped in, he looks like a first team player. He's been there all season, and Daniel Amati, who we brought in, he's a young centre back. So we're getting little bits and pieces. We've got a young lad at left back, Ben Chilwell, massive prospect. I think Arsenal were trying to tout him as well.
Looks a good player.
He is. I've seen him a couple of times playing. I think it was in the replay not so long ago. Him and Damari Gray, yeah, they're just two inexperienced players, and they ran the show for us. But I think he tries to get a mix of the experienced team with some younger players that can learn. I think that's his main philosophy. If an injury comes about, then I guess it'd be smart enough to then recall these loans back. I doubt he's let them go out on loan and just that's it.
Yeah.
So
why not take the chance as well?
Yeah, exactly.
If top of the league, and what if one of these injuries doesn't happen and Vardy keeps on scoring? They're gonna win the league. So I think it's worth the chance. And even if Vardy does get injured, I don't think the first thing Leicester fans are going to do is turn to Ranieri and say, "Oh, why don't you get us a striker?" I just think that's the look of it.
How Ranieri, every time he's asked in a press conference or interview before and after a game, he's asked about the season and where they're expected to finish, and he constantly says, and the players as well, that the Premier League title is not on their mind. That's not the goal for Leicester. How does that make you feel as a fan? Do you want them to say, because you could win, and especially if you win against Arsenal, then I think you're 8 points clear of them. You're well within contention of a title. Do you want to see that fire in your players and your manager to say we can go and win the Premier League title?
I think it's a happy medium really, because although we know where we are, the players and that they'll know that we're 5 points clear. They know that how they're doing a phenomenal job. But I think the worry is if they come out and say they're going for the title, what does that do to them psychologically?
Yeah.
I mean, if they keep the mentality...
Just trying to keep the heads down.
Keeping the mentality here. And Ranieri's doing a great job for this, because he's taking all the pressure away from the players. And he's just letting them go out and enjoy themselves. I've said a few times, they're very similar to the Wimbledon of the olden days, the crazy gang. They're not very attractive. They're not everybody's cup of tea, but they go out, they enjoy the football, and they play to win that game.
Yeah.
There's a mentality that started at the start of the season when I think we were a couple of points clear at the top. Even then, we were still at the top four. And Ranieri says we take it as just one game at a time. Every time it's the step foot onto the pitch, 3 o'clock, it's 0-0 first game of the season. Yeah. And I think that philosophy is the best way of doing it, because you're going out, no pressure.
Yeah, and I'll say, I went to the game when they played City. I was a City fan, so I was supporting them, watching the game. This is the first time I've seen Leicester play this season, and I was shocked of how good they were. I know about top of the table, but I didn't expect they were that good. They were so well organised defensively. And the City side, they had De Bruyne out, but they still had Aguero, Torre, Sterling, Silva made an appearance as well. Some of the best players in the Premier League, and they just couldn't get through the Leicester defence. So he's obviously, I said Ranieri's doing something right.
Yeah.
And he's got good team spirit there as well.
Also, with another thing about being grounded, after the Arsenal game, I think they have a couple of what should we say, easier games. Is it Norwich?
Norwich, West Brom.
Is that where they need to be careful though?
That is
I
where
think
it needs.
so, yeah.
That's why I think he's not come out and said, we can win the title.
Because we've
He's
seen,
trying
I
to
think
keep
Arsenal's a perfect example
Yeah.
of previous seasons where
But
they've
if
had an
you-
easy run.
If you look at all the teams that have been going for the title last few seasons, I seem to remember Liverpool when the season they finished second, was it? They drew with Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
It weren't
Were they 3-0 up in that one as well?
3-0 up in that one. And I always remember, it hurts me as a United fan, when City won the first title, and United, towards the end of the season, went about 6 or 7 points clear, and then they got beat away at Wigan.
They drew at home at Everton as well.
And they drew at home at Everton the next game.
Yeah.
That's how quick it can change, 2 bad results. But I think that's why he's trying to keep them grounded, not coming out.
You don't want to come out and say that he's winning the title in front of the fans as well, and then they don't do it, sort of thing. I mean, even because if he says that and we don't win the title, as much of an amazing season it's been, fans are going to be disappointed at the end of the day.
And he gets the players on his side, we'll talk about making the pizzas, which is a good story for a journalist. What's he putting in the pizzas? What's he putting in the sauce? Huh?
I honestly
make it the pizza.
Whatever he's putting in there, it's certainly helping him carry on getting the 3 points.
I think a few other managers will be down the phone asking for his recipe.
Just to discuss as well, like we were discussing the other day, it's a bit of a shock that Ranieri's doing so well as well.
Especially how he's kept the team as well, because he's been given a tinker man. He's constantly changing the team. Especially as a manager who you look 6 months to a year ago, seemed to have the most simplest of jobs, getting Greece through the easiest group. And they finished bottom as well, and they were awful.
They got beat
and
by
look what he's doing now. So
I think
it's a bit.
At Monaco, did he get sacked at Monaco? I want to say.
I think he resigned. He finished second though. He got promoted and finished second. So
I think
he did a good job.
Unlucky in that case, but
I think that worked in a good way though with it, as you alluded to with Greece. Like people written him off all because of that performance. He's got something to prove as well. He knows he's a good manager, and he had unfinished business in the Premier League when Abramovich got rid of him at Chelsea.
Yeah.
So Leicester's last game is away at Chelsea.
Yeah.
So that
could be interesting.
It's good to do when Mourinho in charge at Chelsea.
Going on from this season, looking ahead, do you think that it's sort of going to be a one-season wonder, or do you think that they can carry on this for the next couple of seasons, bring in a few new faces like every club needs to do, and keep it going?
I think what's important next year is to establish where we're at. Go as we've been going on. Sign a couple of, this summer is going to be the best chance we're going to get to attract big players. We're not been the biggest club in the world, never will be. But, make the most of it now. Even if we finish in the top 8 again, I'd take that. I think every Leicester fan would take someone's arm off for that,
I think,
we just need to, under Ranieri, I think we're going to steadily build and build and build. He's only got 3 more years in him, I think. And then from there, hopefully he'll leave us in a good enough shape to then get a young continental manager that will want to take us even further. Maybe it might be a younger Mourinho. You never know.
I think it's honourable because I'm a Man City fan, and they didn't always used to be the team they are now. And they used to be like coming in a school on a Monday morning, and 9 times out of 10 they'd lost, and it'd be horrible. Like you have other kids like tease you about it, and like when I remember like the day they won the title, like you mentioned talking earlier about the feeling, and when Man City won the title, I remember it was amazing. But if the next season they'd finished 5th or 6th, I wouldn't have been happy with that. I wanted them to go on and win a few more titles. So it's a good view.
It'd be nice down the line, but I mean,
sure,
with the squad that we've got at the minute, I mean, even as a Leicester fan, as great as the achievement is, the squad needs to improve heavily if we're going to do it again.
I think we're done here. Thanks, Lewis, for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And thanks for listening.